morning, everyone.
Good morning.
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 We want to welcome this morning Jim and Vickie Kennedy. They are just a delightful couple that I had the opportunity to meet online I guess it was a couple of months ago. Jim had posted and Vickie had posted about um, Vicky's life and her being blind, how she became blind, the dogs that have helped her through the years. And I thought, my goodness, this is a story that really needs to be told.
Mhm.
So we welcome you to the show. And we're going to start now with the two of you. And Vicki, you can look right into the camera here because Jim he's going to adjust your face for us. Okay. The first thing we want to do is we want to learn a little bit about you. So if you wouldn't mind, would you share with us about your original blindness diagnosis?
Sure. Well, good morning, Kathy, Gaetan, and Roman. So privileged to be here with you all today. And uh, we're going to talk about our favorite subject, service dogs, and my precious, amazing three guide dogs. And talk about guide dogs, I'd like for you to meet my buddy.
Okay, I'll just
And
do a
buddy,
quickie
where are
here.
you?
There he is.
Come here, buddy.
Hey,
Oh,
bud.
hi, buddy. Hi,
Anyway,
buddy.
Buddy is my third guide dog, and he's my first boy. And I've been a guide dog handler for 21 years now,
Diagnosis.
and they're all from Guide Dogs for the Blind. Now, back in 1978, so we go back about 43 years, I was beginning to stumble around, bumping into the walls a little bit, stepping on poor sleeping dogs and kitties, and bumping the carts in the store, but just a little bit, not serious. And then one day I was coming out of the kitchen and I almost did a somersault over my father, who was kneeling down with the buffet doors open. And I knew then that there was something seriously wrong. So I went to an ophthalmologist who was highly recommended, and we went through extensive tests. And even then, at that time, the only thing he found out was that instead of the normal 180 degrees of periphery, I had only 19 degrees, which really diagnosed me as legally blind.
Wow.
She drove her car
Yeah.
to and from that appointment, too.
Oh boy.
I drove for 16 years and never had an accident nor a parking ticket. And I drove here in Hawaii and in Los Angeles, where I went to school, Mount St. Mary's University. But anyway, he asked me to come back again and did more testing. And then he saw a light beige uh, patch in the back of my retina. And then he recommended that I go to Jill Stein Eye Institute in at UCLA in Los Angeles. And he asked me to take my son with me, who was then 10 years old, because this is a genetic disease. And
Oh,
I was diagnosed with then retinitis pigmentosa, commonly known as tunnel vision. So I had good central vision, 20/20 to be exact, but then it was the loss of periphery. And then I was told that would diminish, and then I would go blind in the years to come. And of course, I was devastated. It was shocking. It was depressing. The anger came in. Why me? But
yeah,
my
I bet.
son needed me, and he was my rock then. And I was determined to get over it, suck it up, and do whatever I needed to do. But the frustrating thing was during those days, back in the day, no computers, no support group, no resources whatsoever. It was kind of rare disease, and so we just had to get information piecemeal by piecemeal. So it was difficult.
Mhm.
Well, you know what I thought was interesting is that here you had the ability to see, and then all of a sudden you can't see anymore. So when that's taken away from you, that's got to be really, really devastating.
Yeah, it was a loss, but thank God it didn't happen overnight. It was
Yeah.
gradual.
That
Yeah.
was a,
So
yeah.
when I became blind, it was in 2000. Yeah.
Okay. So now the
Her eyes, and she became my ears.
So it hasn't happened. We make a hole, so it's okay. Yeah.
you guys are so cute.
Okay,
Okay.
just for
So
confirmation, your husband is still handsome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I remember him with darker
I,
hair.
I still have black hair, don't I?
Yeah.
yeah,
All of them. Everything is there.
yeah,
Yeah, right, right. So
yeah,
in
and
my
no
mind's
sagging
eye,
at all.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So in my mind's eye, I still picture things that I used to see very clearly. And so when I want to know what's out there, I'll say, okay, Jim, describe something to me. And he
Yeah,
does a
and in
very
your
good job.
dreams too. I bet in your dreams you can see a lot too.
Yes, I do see in color in my dreams, and I never am blind in my dreams, nor do I ever dream about all three of my guide dogs. That's
Wow.
really
That's really unusual.
there's a story behind that, but who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us the story about your decision to use a cane after you were being hit by a car.
Okay. Well, even before that, when I was diagnosed legally blind, I knew that one of these days I would have to use the cane. So while still here in Hawaii, I just had a few lessons on the basic cane travel, just in case.
But she didn't
Okay.
want others to know
But
she was
then
blind.
we moved to San Diego because of Jim's job in '85 after we were married in '84. But I was a little bit apprehensive to use the cane because it's did I have was I vain? Yeah, I guess you could say that. I was a little bit embarrassed to be in front of my peers and Jim's peers, and I decided, well, I can still see, so I saw clearly, so I didn't have to use the cane. But
I told her to use the cane. Oh, no,
but
not going to.
one day on my way back to the office from having lunch, I met a car in the crosswalk.
You meet the car like that.
Yeah, you met a car.
Really didn't get hurt. My pride was hurt. And I picked myself up and I went back to the office. I was shaking like a leaf. And I called Jim to say what happened. And he said, "Oh, honey, are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." And he says, "See, I told you, you
Yeah.
have to use the cane." So the next morning, I took my cane out. And I want to tell you, it's funny because I went out to lunch again, and it was a revelation. I was walking down the sidewalk, and I felt like Moses parting the Red Sea because everybody went out of my way as I walked down. I thought, hey, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I did use a cane for 12 years. And
Okay.
yeah, so anyway, that's the story about my cane and the vanity. So never do
Okay.
that.
So tell us about the decision to get your first guide dog, which was
Yeah,
Freida, right?
yes, it was
Okay.
Freida, and that was in the year 2000. But I bet you want to know why I didn't get a guide dog early on, and that is because here in Hawaii, we don't have any
Look
rabies.
down on one.
Okay, we don't have any rabies, and we don't have ticks that cause Lyme disease as well. And so,
Paradise.
any dog, a pet dog, or even a service dog that would come to our islands were quarantined.
I mean,
Okay,
what?
Really?
it
3 or
was a
4 months.
four months quarantine.
Mhm.
Even if
Okay,
it was a service dog.
even though it was a service dog. And so I thought, well, I can't do that. I'm not going to put my dogs through that when we would come and visit family here. But I heard some rumors that there was a lawsuit that was going to happen, and it was between a guide dog handler and the state of Hawaii. The state of Hawaii was sued. And then finally, I believe it was late 97 or 98, the ban was lifted for service dogs as long as the rabies vaccination was current, the titer test was given, and the health certificate was done on the dog. And then we could bring the dog in and they got checked and all was well.
So year
So-
2000
So
comes along.
so then just before that, my eyes were really getting more and more dim now, and I didn't have my 20/20 like I used to, and I was using my cane, crossing the street. I went to San Francisco, took the BART, took the bus home, and I was crossing the 6-lane street near our home, and I tend to go off balance, and I veered to the left, and so I was walking across this wide street, but unbeknownst to me, I wasn't going across. I was veering to the left.
Oh,
I heard the car whizzing by me on my left side. I got so scared, I veered over towards the curb, and within the 4 blocks of going to my home, I made up my mind. I went in the house, hooked my cane on that little thing there, and then went to the phone, called up Guide Dogs for the Blind, and said, I am ready for my guide dog.
oh,
And
okay. And that's when you got Freida.
that's when I got Freida in June of 2000.
We love
And
Okay.
that picture. That's our favorite one.
she was an elegant lady, and she was so smart. She just knew what to do. And I have to tell you, the first time when I held the harness handle in my left hand, I walked down the sidewalk and it was so freeing. My head was held up high, my posture was erect, and we just gracefully walked down that sidewalk. And I thought, all these years, this cane was jabbing me in the stomach and getting hooked up into the uneven sidewalks, and it was a
Oh
beautiful
gosh. Wow. Oh,
experience.
Vicki, a question here then. What you're saying is that you immediately felt the comfort,
Oh,
you felt the comfort, and you felt that you could trust in
absolutely.
Freida. And what
Yes.
what do you think gave you that? Was it just instinct?
Yes.
Did you
Well,
just feel that she
the
had the
trainers.
training that she
Yeah,
knew?
it was the trainers, and they told me, now it's going to be very different because you have to trust your dog. Okay, you trust your dog and you follow your dog. That's the mantra at Guide Dogs for the Blind. And so I thought, well, how are we going to cross the street? Is she going to stop at the curb, And
Yeah.
and so she stops, and I said, Freida, forward, or Angela, forward, Buddy, forward. And they move forward with such dignity. But I have to tell you one thing, and all guide dogs are taught this, and this is the hardest thing to train them on, this is intelligent disobedience, because they are trained to always follow your command. So if even with Buddy now, if when he takes me to a curb and we have to cross a busy street, I have to listen to the traffic. And when I think it is safe, I'll say, Buddy, forward. And he will go forward. But once in a while, if there is a car or a bicycle, or these hybrids are our worst enemy, because we can't hear them. And so when I give the command, our dogs will do what we call intelligent disobedience. Okay, so they won't go forward. They'll either go backwards or they do a body block at the knees. So this is very, very important for us. And I want to tell you, these dogs save my life on a daily basis. And
In simple little
in
ways.
simple little ways, and the camaraderie, the companionship, and the loyalty is very profound. It's a cut above a pet dog, which we've had many
Yeah.
of, yeah.
Can I
I'll
bring
I'll interject something here real quick. When Vicki was being interviewed to get approved for being getting a guide dog, I had to be interviewed too, because they need
Yeah.
to know what's the family support going to be
Yeah.
like.
Right.
All that. And Vicki and I were always used to holding each other's hands because when we were walking down the street, I wasn't going to have to wander around or use her cane. We just hold hands. Everyone thought it was so lovely. It was. She flat on her face. And the guy turned to Vicki and said, I think your husband is afraid he's going to be replaced.
Yeah. And when Freida and I graduated, and there's a beautiful ceremony at Guide Dogs for the Blind where we have to give a little speech, and I said, Jim, you are not going to be replaced, but you're going to have the best help you could ever hope for.
Oh my.
That went true for all three of my guides.
She did a lot of traveling, which we'll get into here in a minute, but I never once, the thought of worry never entered my mind for a second, even though they were going 5,000 and 6,000 mile trips.
Yeah. But that's the independence and
Right.
the companionship and the trust is
Right.
there. Yeah. So
I want to comment a second here and bring Roman in, because Roman teaches holistic, but I know I can see on his face that this intelligent disobedience is something that it's important to understand that the dog is acting on their own
yes.
for your safety.
Yes.
Right, Roman?
Absolutely.
Well, first of all, I appreciate you guys for telling the story, and I appreciate also for sharing your trauma. It's a traumatic experience, and also sharing your sensitive moment of getting angry and frustrated about the situation you're in. It takes a lot, to capture that, because some people are not taking that as a reality. No, I'm not angry.
Of course not.
No, she's not.
It goes in certain directions because it's inherited situation, and so the blame goes in all directions, including in time. So we blame the ancestors for that too, that I didn't know and why it's me. However, I see that you recognize that you have a healing purpose here, and it's kind of like not only healing your situation, but you're also healing the ancestors in the same context. So
yes.
Recognizing this heals both sides in the future and in the past at the same time. And then you have this amazing dog who comes here, and I know we use the term obedience very, very often, not understanding the difference between obedience, compliance, and conformity. And I think your dog is compliant to his job description, and it gives him that freedom of making different choice other than something that you suggested. So you're suggesting the dog, hey, I want to go forward, and your dog is like, I don't think that's a good idea.
Right.
If it would be obedient, the dog would be disobedient, which is a problem.
Right.
So by forcing obedience onto a dog, especially a service dog, creates this critical problem. The dog has to follow through no matter what, overcoming his emotions that tells him not to, and he has to because you told him. And the sad part is that many training systems use force to make the dog forcefully being obedient to do things it's being told to do, which would put you in danger. I just want to point that out. So it seems that the training approach you had in the past did not use force to make the dog comply, but they use a better education system to have the dog being conform to the job description and still give him the option to deny the next move because there's a problem, because he feels it's not a good idea to do that, because if something comes up that doesn't make any sense, yet it looks like a card, therefore I have to make a no as a decision.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
the guide dogs uses only positive reinforcement
Right.
in
That's
their
right.
in their training. There is absolutely no harshness at all.
Yeah.
And on this
That's not the norm.
I know it's not.
That's right.
They use different approaches to get the dog to do things, and especially seeing eye dogs, I see there's more often positive reinforcement involved than other service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Legitimate service dog organizations almost always use just positive reinforcement.
Yeah,
And
now they
and
do.
I'd say half or 2/3 of the dogs in the pool don't make it because they can't get over this
Yeah.
intelligent disobedience. They
Mhm.
want to follow the command, no
Right.
matter what. If there's an electric bus coming, they
Yeah.
want to follow it, and they career change those dogs
Mhm.
if that happens.
Right.
They
Right.
can't take one single chance that
Yeah.
that dog breaks from intelligent
Right.
disobedience.
Yeah.
I was
Especially.
wondering, I have a question. I really, with no disrespect, how would you feel looking forward in the very near future where electric cars are more often and these blind people become invisible
Yeah.
to
Yeah. We
car
have to
because the
deal with
car
that.
assumes that you stop because you saw him and you still move forward because you didn't hear the car backing backwards and all these parking lot issues because of course you're going to go shopping with your husband and this of course you're going to park in a disability spots, but people are not paying attention. They
That's
assume
right.
you see me because I expect you to see me and I'm not paying
Right.
attention to that. How do you
And
feel about
There's a
people
yeah.
um,
There's a regulation on that regard with the electric car. They need to have the new generation need to have like a sound system,
yes, I was going to
making
say that.
noise. Yeah,
That's right.
making
People don't
noise
have a
now.
sound system.
Below 30 mile per hour, they have to make a given noise, so it can be heard by the visual impaired, the people with the visual disability. So they are
Right.
addressing this problem as we
Yes.
speak right now. It's a
Hmm.
great thing
We
for
are.
people with difficulty like that.
Yeah.
It's like we were kids. The deck of cards with a clothespin. We put it on our spokes and go click 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 click. Thought it was really cool.
Yeah, yeah,
I know that they're working on a certain sound that is going to be emitted by these hybrid cars.
right.
So we just have to be right on top of that and try to listen to it.
Hmm.
And today there's so much noise pollution out there
Yeah,
between blowers and planes and
yeah.
whatever, and so we really have to concentrate even more.
They,
But
they, they are aiming at having a distinctive sound for electric car, especially electric car. They are completely silent, so they
yeah,
are developing a sound with a combination of frequency that people can hear, but would be
yes,
distinctive from a normal background or another vehicle
Mhm.
or another normal noise, quote unquote. And
yeah,
so that's implemented. I think Tesla has that, and other car they start implementing that. It's a new requirement by the Department of
yes.
Transportation.
I'm glad they're doing
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
I'm really happy for that.
Yes, good.
Oh gosh.
Okay.
I
So
will. Yeah.
go ahead,
May
Gaetan.
I ask something personal to Jim?
Yeah.
You said a few minutes ago that you get married, and a year later, Vicky become blind, and you were aware that she was losing sight at that time,
Yes, I was. I was.
and so
But
you
she had such a beautiful and still has a beautiful spirit.
yes,
And what really hooked me, our sons were in we were previously married. Our sons were in the Honolulu Boy Choir, a church group choir here. And one evening at the board, I was treasurer, she was secretary. At a board meeting, they had a little Christmas gathering, and Vicky danced hula professionally for several years at the Hilton Hawaiian Village in the evenings. And then she got up and danced a hula that just blew me away. And I don't mean like shimmy, shimmy, shake, shake, just a graceful, elegant hula. And she has such peace on her face. I thought, how can this woman who's going blind
Yeah.
convey such peacefulness? So
Yeah.
that I knew about it. Although her ophthalmologist lied. He said she'll probably have some vision for the rest of her life, but she
Wrong.
could go long. Wrong. Eh.
Yeah,
20
yeah.
years later, she had none.
okay, Vicky, you have no vision at all. You don't see
No
any
vision. No, I don't see
light.
anything. No,
Okay,
no. I have a hint of light perception only in my right eye,
okay,
but I see no shape, sizes, color,
okay,
nothing.
okay.
Yeah. So But
Okay, let's continue now. Now, your involvement, Vickie, with Guide Dogs for the Blind as a speaker, a board member, and fundraising, and as a resource for travelers to Hawaii with service dogs, is this something that fulfilled you additionally because
oh,
of your
absolutely.
experience? You wanted to give back?
Absolutely. I was so grateful to Guide Dogs for the Blind for my first guide. Okay. And then I volunteered to be on the Speakers Bureau. And so that led to more things. And because I was also a volunteer president for the Foundation Fighting Blindness in the Northern California affiliate for 10 years, I was doing some fundraising activities. And one of the board members came to that and he said, "How would you like to do this on a larger scale?" And I said, "Bring it on. I'd love to." And so
My
I
party
founded.
animal.
Yeah, a party animal. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was called the Canine Heroes Wine Gala, and all the proceeds from that went to veterinary care for all of the program dogs at Guide Dogs for the Blind. And I was privileged and honored to be on the board,
She
and
was
so
on it
it
for
was
9 years.
well, our tenure is 9 years,
Yeah.
and it ended in 2011. But I continue to support Guide Dogs for all they have done for me with my two dogs, and then here in Hawaii, because a lot of my friends and other blind individuals want to come and visit, and so it can be a little bit of a harrowing experience, but I try to make it easy for them and just plot down the points of what they have to do for their dogs before coming here to abide by all the regulations of the Department of Agriculture. So I'm still involved with, you know, uh, giving pointers of how to make your trip comfortable for you and your guide.
Anybody who's a graduate of Guide Dogs for the Blind tells the officer going to Hawaii, "Do you have anybody we can talk to?" Oh, do they?
Yeah. Okay, so Vickie,
Yes,
working with the guide dog, that gives you confidence. Your guide dog becomes your
yes,
soulmate, and you can read each
absolutely.
other's minds. And
Oh,
they're
yeah,
the next best thing to having your sight back is what you've told
absolutely.
us.
Because with all three of my guides, when we're walking down every morning, we'll do a mile and a half, 2 mile walk, and oftentimes,
Really?
oh yeah, well,
Oh,
except this morning because it's 8 o'clock here in
yeah.
Hawaii. But I have to tell you that once in a while, I forget that I'm blind because we just walk so beautifully together. Okay, and
Oh, wow.
it just gives me peace of mind, and I always say that my guys are the next best thing to having my sight back, and I'm so grateful.
Okay, so now let's talk about your first guide dog, Freida.
Mm.
Now, she retires and she becomes a pet therapy dog.
Yes, yes, and the reason for that is, first of all, she almost died. She had a mast cell tumor, and the surgery was very successful, and we had 5.5 years extra years with Frida. And having been a guide dog all her life and guided me for almost 7.5 years, and for her to just stay at home, I did not want that to happen to her. And so I thought, well, why don't we try pet therapy? And so we went to the largest hospital here, Queens Medical Center, and then also St. Francis Hospice. They had two hospice facilities, and we were going there every Friday. And we everybody loved Frida so much that we were supposed to be there for an hour, and then it went from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock. So we were there for a half day, and she made over 3,000 visits between the patients, nurses, and doctors, and the hospice patients.
Oh,
And
that's
it was
wonderful.
beautiful. And she also got the name of Frida Fridays. It was Frida
Yeah.
Fridays. And then one of the chaplains said that we have a beautiful staff person here. staff member here
Staff
now, and she is very
non-judgmental, non-denominational.
and she listens. But the only thing is, she's got a tail and 4 paws, and she's Chaplain Freida. So that was really a worthwhile
Yeah.
thing to do, and she was doing this for 3 years, and Angela would follow her.
Okay,
So
great.
that's pretty
Well,
cool.
Vickie, your life has really been extraordinary, and now we want to talk about. Jim is going to share with us about the things that he has done, and it seems as though the two of you have really supported each other. That's the one.
Absolutely.
This is a good thing. That's a
Absolutely.
wonderful thing.
Yes.
So now we're going to talk about you, Jim, and I think one thing we can really reiterate on is what Vickie just talked about, which is Freida Friday, and then I'd like to go into when Freida passed away, and that's when I read the article that you had posted about her. So tell us about
So much
that.
we could talk about, but I'll just give you 2 real quick examples. Vickie and I got such satisfaction seeing the warmth come across the patients' faces when we walk into the room and there's this dog and they're surprised, and Freida's perfectly groomed, not smelly, polite, give them a little wet kiss or shake paws. And the smiles that appeared on their faces with all the misery and pain and discomfort they're having just seemed to melt that away. And to say it was satisfying is an understatement. 2 real quick examples. There was a patient who the nurses knew, and her husband and adult children knew. She was conscious and she could hear, but she wouldn't open her eyes and she wouldn't talk. And they wanted to see what would happen if we introduced Freida to this patient. And we went out on the lanai and took Freida right up to her wheelchair, and they lifted her hand up, and Freida had her nose on the wheelchair, and they put her hand back on top of Freida's nose, and then Freida licked the palm, and about 30 seconds later, she opens her eyes.
Wow.
I love you, Freida.
Oh my goodness.
There wasn't a
Wow.
And the other real quick one was this one woman was used to 2 large, I think she had 2 large standard poodles, but she had cancer up and down her spine, and she couldn't roll over without assistance. And because she couldn't see her dogs, they wanted to know what might happen if we took Freida in and introduced her. And we started around the edge of her bed, being escorted by her nurse. And she said, "For real?" And she sat bolt upright and giggled and crossed her legs like she's sitting on a campfire or something, and just wept into Freida's face. And she looked those tears away.
Yeah.
And
Oh my.
the nurses said that was a miracle, because for 3 weeks,
She couldn't move.
anytime she moved, she had to be lifted up and turned over.
Oh wow. The miracle of dogs.
They're
Yes,
really
that's
something
right.
else. And when
That's
she
right.
when she passed away, Queens Hospital, the largest trauma one in the state, held a formal memorial for her. It was really something special. And the lady who wrote this article that you're showing was Hob
Austin.
Yeah, there. So a neat last name. Anyway, she was head of palliative care, or not one head of, but one of the managers in palliative care there. And she and Freida were just like best buds, and it hurt her as much as us when she passed. It was a beautiful relationship we had. And Freida also was the very first pet therapy dog at St. Francis Hospice. I was at the time chairman of their St. Francis Healthcare Foundation, and I got involved with Freida as a pet visitation, and she ended up being the very first pet therapy dog. And after the end of the year, they had the volunteer awards, and Freida got Volunteer of the Year award. And we were happy but embarrassed, because you got 450 volunteers and a dog wins this.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
But she was very happy because she got a lot of treats.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what I'd like to do now is, before we go on with you, Jim, can we go over looking at some of the pictures of, we
Sure.
talked about Freida, but we haven't talked about Angela and about Buddy. So let's show some of these pictures so that
Okay.
you can address, let's see now.
Okay, this is 2 blocks up the street here, and this is Angela. She loved to kiss, and of course that's Vickie, and that's a Hawakale Country Club. And here she is working Vickie along the same. This is the walk that we make every morning. Okay,
Okay.
up the sidewalk from here, and then this was the last day the last moment that Angela served as a guide dog, because it was Saturday evening mass at our church, and the next morning Vickie flew out to California on her own to get her next guide buddy.
Okay.
And there she is, irrepressible little one.
Yeah.
She was a
She was
tiny mighty
exuberant.
mite, only like
She was
48
yeah,
pounds,
48 pounds.
and energy that would not stop.
Yeah. She was bigger
Okay.
than
And then this is Freida and Angela.
So actually, it's Buddy on the right.
I'm sorry, Buddy. I'm sorry.
And Angela again on the left. Buddies can be a nut job sometimes. He's like, hey. Okay, and this is right after we got Angela. Freida had retired. That's my arms around Freida, and then irrepressible Angela on the right again. That rock in the background is Diamond Head.
Okay.
Okay, another one at Hawakale with Angela.
Okay.
And
Now
there's Buddy right here in our television studio in Honolulu here.
And that's your Christmas card this
Our
year.
Christmas card picture for this year.
For this year.
Okay, and then this one.
This one is real special. All of them are, but the 3 ladies, ignoring the 2 girls for a second, the 3 ladies other than Vickie all raised Vickie's guide dogs. Mm-hmm. The one with her hand on Vickie's shoulder raised Angela, irrepressible Angela. The other lady in the tan in the middle raised Freida, Vickie's first guide. And the woman with her 2 daughters is the puppy raiser of Buddy. So they're from San Antonio. And the other 2, well, let's see, Freida was from Arizona and Angela was from the Bay Area.
California, yeah, that's right. And I have to tell you, these puppy raisers have become family to us. And I just want to, since we're talking about puppies and the raisers right there, I like to give a shout out to all the puppy raisers who raise these wonderful puppies to become service dogs. And without them, our organization could not exist, and they take these beautiful, precious little puppies with needle-like teeth, sharp teeth, and then they go through all kinds of scenarios in the house, and they socialize them. They take them all over.
Behavior is perfect.
Behavior is perfect, right? And then just when they're perfect, then they have to tearfully say goodbye to them. So they go back to Guide Dogs for the Blind College to become service dogs.
They're saints.
Yeah.
They are saints.
I wouldn't be able to do that.
It's kind of like being a foster mom too. Yeah, you get so attached to them. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, sure. So their labor of love is something that is just wonderful.
Exactly.
Amazing. Yeah.
Well, Jim, you have done a lot too. You've served as the executive director at the Hawaii Fido Service Dogs. And one area that I know that our viewers are going to be very interested in, that you helped get the fake service dog law passed in Hawaii. It should be passed all over. But do you want to share with us about that?
Real briefly, I think that'll be one of 2 legacy things for me that I feel really proud of. Here in Hawaii, in most states, the fake service dogs is a huge issue. And we tried to get publicity, and I just hit the jackpot with Nina Wu, who wrote this article that you just showed the headlines on. And we got the attention of the state legislator that was looking at a bill that would make it illegal to pose a dog as a service dog when it is not. And so Vickie and I rallied together. We got all of our service dog friends and appeared at the judiciary committees of the House and the Senate, and went through the whole 9 yards. And we said, let's talk about the elephant in the room that nobody's talking about, and that
Right.
is accountability. Because the law ADA does not require, it says you cannot require documentation. You have to basically take the word of the handler. And so if you can't require ID, how in the heck can you enforce this? And I said, it's problematic. Don't expect to get a lot of revenue for the state, but it's putting a stake in the ground. And I said, I promise you this, I will try to get the best education out there we can. And that the one article you just saw was during their hearings. I don't know if you have the other one, but the day before it was going to go into law, December 30th, this article, it was a headline, the whole front page of the Star Advertiser. Nina did it again. Yeah. And I told, she said, Jim, I'm going to write something. It'll be out there. No one in the state will be able to say they didn't know. They didn't know. Okay. Well, I opened up the local section. It wasn't there. I thought, gosh, I thought she was going to write something. I threw the newspaper on the table, and I thought, wait a minute. I went right past the front page.
And it was right on the front page. Yay. Yeah.
So she helped me deliver my promise to the legislature to educate. My purpose, by the way, was not to berate. It was to educate. The biggest problem with that, someone says, no big deal. No one's getting hurt. And I said, no, there's three things. Businesses grow confused. When they grow confused, they don't know who to trust. And they can be a little confrontational sometimes, wanting, something. I got to prove to me that this is a service dog. And then the individual with the disability is having enough challenge dealing with that. And then they have this added challenge of confrontation. And finally, even though the dogs are well trained, they're still a dog. And when there's an uncontrolled, not trained, fake dog in a store, it can create fake service dog. It can create a distraction. And for a blind person, a guide dog, if it gets distracted, that could have some serious consequences.
Well,
so we made those points.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, what we've found, and that is the most disturbing, is that if it is a fake service dog, and it does distract, that service dog could lose its credentials and have to go through a career change.
Right.
So we realize that this is very important. And Roman, do you have things that you can talk about in relation to fake service dogs and the detriment that they offer or that they provide to other people? Pardon? You didn't hear the question? Oh, wait. Okay.
I didn't hear the question. Can you do the question again?
Okay. It's, could you talk about a fake service dog, the problems that they can cause to to a real service dog in terms of them losing their train of thought, or they may lose it totally. How that is so detrimental, because thousands and thousands of dollars have been put into training a service dog, and a fake service dog can really ruin them.
I can give a couple of examples that I saw. For example, in those big stores where service dogs are allowed. Of course, some other people take the dogs in for training. And what I see very often is that there is a person at the checkout with a service dog, and another dog who's in training is basically attacking the service dog. And so their service dogs are sentient beings and emotional dogs, just every other dog. They just have to manage these emotions more than other dogs. They have to overcome certain fears. They have to be consistent. They have to evaluate situations. Now, if another dog is attacking the person, or that dog has to make decisions. And if he cannot make those decisions because he has to stay next to the person, then we're causing trauma. The dog is exposed to an external trigger. He cannot complete his survival response, and so he's causing emotional stress, which cause stuck trauma. Now, without other people knowing it, the dog that is attacking the dog that is a service dog is causing the dog emotional trauma that the dog would not be able to handle himself, which means at some point that dog will fail. He gets stressed, he gets scared, he will be insecure going to these places that he feels attacked where he's supposed to not feel attacked. Those dogs are not being exposed to attacks to handle attacks. Make
Yeah.
sense? And so what people, of course, we need to see the other side too, the people who don't have the financial background and they don't have, the legal support to go and get a service dog. So they are forced to train the dog themselves, but they don't know how to do that. They want to hire a trainer, but trainers are too expensive. So it becomes a vicious circle because I'm not sure how much they have to come forward, how much financial burden would be for the family to get a service dog, and what does this entail. But I need to help people understand that just because you feel entitled to have a service dog doesn't make your dog a service dog.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Just because somebody told you, I'm going to train your service dog, doesn't mean that dog is a service dog. The service dog is not a credential.
Yeah.
It's a way of being a service dog. It's
Mhm.
the skills that a dog has to show to be a service dog.
I
In
saw
other
a
words, a
case.
service dog can fail even if he has credentials if he's not capable to function in that frame.
Sure.
And another dog who is not officially a service dog can be just fine as a service dog if he is compliant to this frame. But we need at some point to clarify who defines that dog or who credits that dog with being a service dog, a certified service dog, and how do I get there to have a service dog? And who is the trainer who trains that dog to be a service dog? I feel every person has the right to train his service dog, but he needs to understand the concept of it, and he needs to go through a process, through a legal process. And unfortunately, on the website, on the internet, there are so many hoaxes, and it tells you, oh, you just register your service dog and you're
Right.
good to
Yeah.
go. You can have
Cost
a
you
service
$60 and
dog.
we'll give you a
Send
fake
me
certificate.
$35.
Buy a certificate or buy
Yeah.
a vest and you're set. I saw a case. I was in a restaurant and a woman walked in with a dog with a vest saying service dog, and she cannot get the dog to sit.
Oh,
And this is like, okay, that's a joke.
yeah.
If you
Yeah.
cannot have your dog to sit, you're in the restaurant, you're sitting at the table, and you cannot have your dog to sit, there's a problem there.
Yeah.
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 And you are
Right.
abusing the system and you take advantage of people. And the point that Roman is mentioning, somebody has to evaluate the dog and give certification that he's a service dog and that he's able at least to behave in public without being aggressive or aggressing other dogs. And there's tests and there's some program exists to give a certification to dog in that regard. But they have to go through this. If they want to train their dog themselves, they have to be evaluated by independent person,
Right. Yeah.
competent expert, to evaluate and say, yes, your dog is a good citizen. You can be in public and not barking at people or not attacking another dog. And without that, it's kind of a free for all.
You know,
Yes.
it's interesting. In some states, they do require that evaluation, and some states do not.
Right.
Unfortunately, the ADA does allow an individual to train their own dog, and that person doesn't have to have credentials, but has to train in obedience, behavior, and train to help in a very specific way to deal with their disability. That's the key right there. Not just
Yeah.
well behaved. They perform a function that assists them in a meaningful way. If
Right.
they meet that criteria, then I don't really have a problem with that. But that could be a whole program in itself. I can tell you
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This,
Yeah.
this is a
Right.
very big subject.
Yeah. Okay, well, this has been a wonderful show. We want to thank you so very much for being on the show. And is there any last thoughts that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, if you get feedback and they'd like more information, we'd be glad
Yes.
to be a resource.
Right.
I would like to
Oh,
say, yeah.
wait, I just see here that Catherine. Hi, Catherine. Uh, she says that in New York City, people are not allowed to demand certification of a service dog. Really?
That's right.
ADA
That's right.
will not
ADA.
allow you to demand certification. ADA expressly says
Really?
you cannot
Yes.
prove, you do not have to prove that you had certification. She's right on that.
Right.
Okay.
I
I'm
see
sorry.
I'm concerned a little bit here. In Europe, people who have disabilities are clearly marked. And I know the marking is kind of like, I'm Greek Austrian, so my apologies if I kind of invade, the US standards. In Europe, if you're blind or you have disabilities, you are clearly assigned that you're a disabled person, so everybody can recognize and pay specific attention to your needs as you cross the street. And also dogs are clearly marked as service dogs or seeing eye dogs because they have the same mark on their gear, which
Wow.
is blind, deaf, or
Medical alert.
Yeah.
right. Why is this such a thing here in the US that you cannot show that you have this disability? You have to kind of secretly do that.
Yeah. I think it's
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. It's the Privacy Act.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
most of them are medical conditions.
Yeah.
And then you get into, having to divulge and prove the medical
So it's-
circumstances. The ADA, I think overdid it a little bit on that.
Yeah, because I need
love
to drive a
change
car.
certification.
Obviously, everybody sees that I don't see well.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
ADA does allow you to train your own, and you don't have to be a certified trainer to do that. But you have to train it to behave and to perform a meaningful function relative to your disability. By the way, the only two questions a business can ask is, one, is that a service animal required because of a disability? You can't say, are you disabled? What is it? Is that a service animal required because of a disability? And the second is, what specific assistance does that dog provide you? And you cannot ask for a demonstration either. Okay.
Really?
All of us legitimate service dog training organizations do issue IDs, and we encourage our handlers to openly display that and offer it.
Yeah.
But the business establishment is not allowed to demand that. That's a real important point. They can ask those two questions, and that's it.
It's all about the privacy.
Yeah.
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 But I know I have shown my ID from Guide Dogs for the Blind. It has a picture of my guide dog and me and all of the specifics of the breed, and the number ID for the dog too. And once in a while, I used to hand it out because they said, well, you don't look blind, so why do you need that dog for? I said, I am. And then I flipped that ID out.
Yeah.
And then I asked for the supervisor. And then that shuts them up and we go through.
An important thing is most individuals who have service dogs are not blind. They have other they have a medical
Other
issue like
disability.
medical alert. They have serious
Diabetes.
balance issues, and they need assistance. And it might not be all that obvious to a viewer. Like, gee, that person doesn't look disabled. Okay, never mind that they might have a diabetic attack 3 or 4 times a week, and this dog will alert. You would have no idea of that. So we always recommend err on the side of courtesy and belief.
Yeah.
If the dog is misbehaving, that's what I want.
Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah. Okay. Any last thoughts, everyone?
I would like to salute Vickie's spirit. You have a great spirit. Keep your spirit. Let's make everybody happy. You share joy and high spirit with everybody. Thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you.
She is spirited.
When I first was diagnosed, I was down in the depths, I have to tell you, but one has to accept. And when that happened, then everything was fine. And of course, my guide dogs were my partners.
Excellent.
And Jim too. Yeah. So.
And me too.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, he's helping once in a while.
Yeah.
He's the sidekick of the dog.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, right,
I want to.
That's right. He's a keeper.
She throws me a bone once in a while.
Well,
That's
I
enough.
would like to say that this is the first time that we've actually had a person that has a service dog. And from your viewpoint, I think it has really helped our fans because a lot of people look at a service dog as this, that it's just doing a job. But they
Right.
actually
Oh,
become
yeah.
family and they become
Oh,
part of your life. And it is important. You
yeah.
brought up a good point, Jim, about that they had to interview you too, because that dog is going to be contributing to your well-being as well.
That's
Mhm.
right. Oh,
So
and the other thing too, Kathy, and now that you brought that up, some people say, "Oh my God, how could you do this to your dog?" I said, "Do what?" They said,
yeah,
"Well, this dog is always at your side and then is so strict, they can't play." I said, "Yeah, he can't play while he's working, but you should see him when we go home, take the harness and leash off. He's crazy. All three of my dogs are
Yeah.
crazy,
How these
you know,
people live with a
and yeah, they get their yayas out.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay, everyone. I just want to say that today our show was brought to you by our sponsor, My Bully Sticks, and we put a link below in the description, not in the description, in the comments. So if you would like to, please feel free to get a 10% off. And hey, listen, everyone. This has been a fabulous show. I can't wait to do more of them. We'd love to have you back on the show too.
We'd
If
be,
you
sure,
don't.
we'd
would
be
be
honored. There's a
honored.
lot more
Yeah.
we can talk about.
Okay, that sounds good. Let's plan on that.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone.
You.
Excellent. Thank
Thank
you
you.
Thanks
so
so
Thank you.
much.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all.
Bye.
Aloha.
Bye.
Aloha.
Bye.